Hey, Guy Powell here, and welcome to the next episode of the backstory on the Shroud of Turin. If you haven't already done so, please visit guypowell.com and sign up for more of these episodes. So, as you all know, I am the author of the recently released book, The Only Witness. It is a historical fiction on the Shroud of Turin and the history of that burial cloth of Jesus Christ over the last 2 millennia. Today we're speaking with Paul Hanson, and he's done some fascinating things on the Shroud, and we'll be talking about that and some of the things that he's found and some of the things that he's done. So Paul's been researching the Shroud probably for the last 20 years. He's like an expert in imagery and animation, and now with AI, he's letting all of that stuff come together so we can really understand even more intricate details that are on that shroud. And so, Paul, say hello and then tell us a little bit about what your backstory is on the Shroud of Turin. How did you get involved in that?
Yeah, so what happened was back about 20 years ago, I first, first came across the Shroud of Turin in Meadowhall, and I saw it on a magazine, and just the face and everything, and I read about it, and it said something about Leonardo da Vinci creating it. So, but there were a lot of other interesting things, like there were the real blood on the shroud as well. So that piqued me interest. Also, it were a 3D image, and as you know, back in the medieval times, not even 3D images were a thing. So I thought that were interesting. That piqued me interest. So I took the booklet home, and um, I was going through a rough patch because I just split up with my girlfriend at the time, and we lived in a flat, and I'm quite a new Christian. Um, so we before I became a Christian, and then we both sort of like became Christians. But anyway, she'd left, and so I was at a down, a low point in my life, and really what happened was I was listening to Jaws of Clay in the flat with a song called Silence, and the booklet was on the coffee table, and it fell off the coffee table, and I looked round and I saw it on the floor, and it had the face of Jesus. Now in the song it says it's asking God a question, where are you? So so, so that was quite a moment for me. But instantly it was as though I had like a spiritual awakening, because instantly I got like a download from Jesus, and it just took me out of my situation, and I really had this like desire, uh, to reach the lost. And I can't explain it, but it's like I felt the love that Jesus had, for everyone to come back into a relationship with Him and to be reconciled to God. So, so that's how I started with the shroud.
Yeah, it's amazing when you see that image and that face, and you see it, laid out even. It is just so astonishing and so I don't know, contemplative, and it really does cause you to think differently about all of the troubles that you have. They kind of all go away, and then all of a sudden you get this warm feeling, and it certainly does that. So interesting, and it's funny. You said where is I think you said where is Jesus, and a lot of people look at that image and say, who am I? And and here I am. So. That is a fantastic story.
Yeah, but yeah, that led me on a quest to discover more about the shroud, and I did a lot of research over it. Um, I always I wasn't completely convinced then, even though I got this spiritual, you know, I got the idea in my head that it was Jesus, but obviously, you've still got doubts, haven't you? So I've still got them as well. But then I had another spiritual experience where I was sat in church, and just out of the blue, I had like a vision, and it just came to me. It was like, I can't explain it, but it was like as bright as the sun, but I saw the face, and it was the Shroud of Turin. And now on the Shroud of Turin, he's looked like he's pouting. It doesn't look as though he's being. It looks like he's serious, but this face was smiling at me, and it just looked exactly like the Shroud of Turin. So that's sort of like imprinted on my brain. So I don't know whether God was, doing a work there, and for later.
Yeah, he was saying,
Yeah,
get into that.
possibly, yeah, possibly. Well, that's going back. I think that was probably back in 2003. I think that was before my son was born. And my son was born in 2003. So, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and that was 2003, I guess about 15 years after the radiocarbon dating fiasco. And that was really when the
Yeah.
interest in the shroud, I think, started to take off again. And so maybe God was at that time just sprinkling little dust here and there to get all of us going again. Because it was also around that time that I got interested back in it again. After the 1988 disaster, I had not done anything, and then really about 2003, I did almost the same thing. So that was a propitious time for all of us.
Yeah. It's interesting how God sets things up. It's, yeah. But,
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I really started looking, I started making videos of the Shroud of Turin. I really got excited probably around 2016, maybe about 10 years ago, about 2016, something like that. And I started doing videos on YouTube about it because I really didn't understand at that point about the image. I'd not done enough research really. And I watched a video by someone, and he was talking about how superficial the image was, and that an artist can't have painted it. And obviously the team of scientists back in the 80s already concluded that an artist had not done it, even before the
Mm,
disastrous carbon 14 test came out.
yep.
So at that point, I just decided to go straight into it, and I just looked up all the science on shroud.com. I went through all the papers, and I couldn't believe how much science. I think it was the only 1988 carbon dating that really is the only peer reviewed science that really went against the shroud. Everything else seemed to be pointing towards its authenticity.
Mm,
So that's that
yeah,
was quite
yeah.
interesting. And
Well, that's a great story, that's for sure. And and it's so not well. I guess it's rewarding to see how others as well have been touched by the shroud, and how God then gave that little nudge and or a big nudge and pushed us all over the edge. So
yeah,
fantastic. Now you've done a lot of things with the shroud and the image on the shroud, and so tell us a little bit about that, and maybe we can see a little bit about what you have done.
it was actually a guy called Tangelo. I saw him. He cleared the face up using
Mm.
AI when AI was in its early days last year, and I was absolutely astounded by that. I thought, wow, because you could see the skin texture and everything. So I mean, some of it's guesswork from AI, but some of it isn't. So if like I've tested AI myself, I've blurred my own face, and AI can pick up like moles on your face and things like that. So even though it's blurred, it knows that it's a mole, and it seems to just be able to know that, and it brings that out. So maybe some of the pores and everything that were on that image, what I saw was, reality.
Mm.
So that piqued my interest, and I carried on, uh, testing it out, testing different software. So it wasn't just AI. I was using Pixar, PickWish, and there were a load of other, software programs that I was using to try and clear the face up. In the early days, I was just using AI to clear the face up, and that were it.
Hmm.
And then I decided, because AI is using some of the guesswork, so it's probably getting like 70% right, 30% guesswork. Every time you were doing it, you're probably losing some of the image of the Shroud of Turin. So I decided then, probably around this year, to start superimposing the shroud face back over. And so I did that using AI, and then I wasn't happy with that either. So even though it looked really good and really close to the shroud, I thought, well, I've got to go one step further here. I'm going to have to do it myself. So I took the shroud back, the shroud face, and I superimposed it back over that model face, and then carefully, bit by bit, just remove all the marks and stains and everything. So you've got all the features and the contours there of the Shroud of Turin.
Yeah, yeah.
That took a lot of work to do that.
Yeah, no, I believe it, and unfortunately, there are a lot of marks on the face, and of course on the rest of the body, and there's the bruising and potentially a broken nose and things like
Yeah,
that. So each one of those has to be somehow figured out.
yeah. I mean, I kind of saw most of the right face is like raised up. It's got bruising to the right cheek, and there's quite a lot of bruising there on the right cheek, on the right side. But on the left side, he has got some marks, but there's not as much swelling. So his left side is more, I'd say more, what's the word, perpendicular to rest of face. So
Hmm.
it's so what I did was I just made, took the right side and lowered it down in level
Hmm.
with the left side, and obviously reduced it to the same level. Um, Still, it was showing quite high cheekbones and stuff like that. And I didn't know that. I thought that was a mistake, but I thought maybe I need to reduce it more. But then I started looking into 19th century Nazarenes, because we've got old photographs of Nazarenes. Do you want me to show you one?
Yeah, please.
So if I go to share screen, let me see. So that's typically a Jewish, when it comes up. That's typically a Jewish face there.
Mm.
That were taken in the 70s. That one, but I've got one. What's even, that's early. That's late 19th century. That photo, and as you can see, he's got quite high cheekbones and
Mm.
everything, and the facial
Mm.
structure. I think that looks very much like the Shroud facial structure to me.
Mm.
That kind of Nazarene face there. I think I've got one more actually. Yeah. So then that's just pictures of early Jews in Jerusalem. That's the
Yeah.
19 early 20th century. Sorry. So that's actually early 20th century, and you can tell with cheekbones they're all
Yeah.
quite, so that were typical. And then I looked into a paper what was done in, I'm not sure when it was done, but early 2000s. There were a paper, and it was computer models. I'm not sure when it came out. I think it was 2002, something like that. But I read it, and I'm not sure. Was it John Jackson? I'm not sure who actually wrote the paper,
Hmm.
but they wrote a paper with computer models and testing the shroud features and the body and everything. And they found that it was 85% symmetric, the actual face.
Mm.
Uh, so a lot of the features, the elongated face and nose, and the cheekbones, which are quite high, is just actually, you know, part of being a Nazarene. So
Yeah, yeah. So, so you had to kind of like even up both sides. So the right side, well, the right side was is bruised, and then you had to remove that and kind of make it like the left, and then even
yeah,
on the left side down a little bit lower, you had to kind of even both of those out. So is that generally the case? For a lot of these, I don't know, AI generated or computer generated images, is that typically the case? You kind of get, to a certain point, 50, 70% of the way there, and then you still have a handful of things that you have to do manually to kind of, get the rest of the way.
yeah, because AI's good at recognizing things that are really there, because I've tested it out myself. It does capture things what are real, like from a blurred image. We can't see it as humans, but AI can see it somehow. It's called deep learning, and it brings it out. So you've got all the marks of the Shroud of Turin. He's got a thick lip. You can see the dislodged nose and everything. And typically, if you're just going to copy it from that, you're not going to get the face. So it takes several of the steps that I use to get closer to the Shroud of Turin. So what I do is I superimpose the face using AI, because I've got a cleared up version of the face already that I've leveled up, reduce the swelling on the right side and things like that. And I just superimpose that face over. And it's funny because not every AI face you generate will superimpose properly. You'll get, odd effects. And I've tried it out for ages, and it's as though by accident it just happened where I got this cleared up face of the Shroud of Turin from AI, and it got a blue background and everything, and it just worked. It was I was superimposing a normal, natural photographic face on someone else.
Yeah.
Because I've tried it with my brother, but you can't do that with like cartoons or anything else like that. So if you take an image of something like a cartoon figure or something and superimpose it over someone's face, it'll be quite distorted. It won't look very very good. But this actually looked, human. So I'm guessing, that AI did a good job there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now, how do you one of the things that's fascinating on the image is what look like the teeth. It looks like the teeth are on the black and white image. They're actually very bright white compared to what you'd expect. So how does like AI treat that, and how do you interpret that area, what appears to be right below the nose?
Yeah, sometimes AI can see things like that and it doesn't know what to do. So it's sort of like just leaves the teeth there. So in some of my images, I forgot to remove that, and sometimes it doesn't do that. Sometimes it does. It depends on how high quality image. I've noticed the higher quality image you use for AI, the more things it brings out that are supposed to be like X-ray properties on the shroud, like the teeth. You can see the teeth with the roots, and it sort of like sees that and puts it as some ruins the image. So those things stand out, and but mostly it does it all right.
Yeah. So it sounds like too, yeah. So if you had an even higher resolution image, then would the AI then start to pull out more things that you have to then remove, or how it would seem like there might be a balance between how high a resolution you get versus how good the AI would be able to respond to it.
I think best thing to do is just show you my latest one, what I've been working on. This is the latest one now. This is not finished. I'm still working on it. But you can see that it's got the Shroud of Turin face overlaid there. Yeah, so that's the so you can see there, that's the Shroud of Turin image over.
Yeah.
What I did. And then this is the final image I got to.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
Now, did you find, I noticed you have like bright spots on the eyes, and sometimes people think there might be coins there. Do those bright spots, do you think those do you think those might actually be coins, or is that something else that is just an artifact of the the photography or something like that?
Well, I think just shut this door. Yeah, I think the when I've cleared and enhanced the image, I've not seen any coins at all. It's really difficult to see, even just with the naked eye. So you know, it's not really brought that out at all. AI. That doesn't mean that coins are not there. It's just that AI is trained to you know, it recognizes faces. So where the eyes are supposed to be, it's going to put eyes there rather than anything else, because it doesn't make sense to put coins there, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got your teeth with the roots, it will put that there sometimes because it knows that, you know, teeth are supposed to be there.
Right.
And it goes wrong, but you know, it can recognize that there's some teeth there, low teeth, what are showing through the lip somehow.
Yeah.
So it puts it down. But
Yeah. Now you've also worked on the backside, and there's some interesting things there, especially with the ponytail or potential ponytail. Tell us about that.
yeah, so I've cleared up both sides of the image. Now, what I've used of the Shroud of Turin isn't really that high resolution image. It's quite a low resolution image, but you know, still it's able to recognize certain things like ponytails and things like that. So when I've put it in AI, it's recognized as a ponytail there and put the ponytail. I've actually got a cleared up image which I can show you. That's one cleared up image.
Yeah.
So as you can see, you've got the ponytail here. But I notice it not only just brought up all the you know, the scourge marks, you know, the bell-shaped scourge marks as well. But if you look down here, and I've highlighted it by just putting my cursor over it, you can see that it's like a lower vertebrae. Now, if you take a lower vertebrae and take an image and you put it over this, it's identical, almost identical to this image. So that there is some sort of bone structure, and I've even used AI to ask it to see whether it can actually recognize the bone structure, and you know, it says that's part of the lower vertebrae, and it's also found like in the fingers. You've got, you know, so it's like an X-ray like that.
Yeah, right.
So
it's pretty impressive.
Like finger bones, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's not AI. That's not what I've cleared up there, but I think, is it Dr. John Jackson? Is it Dr. John Jackson? Yeah, he found that there were thumb visible as well under the shroud.
Yeah.
Actually under the hand. So the guy's got his thumbs contracted as though he's been, you know, what would happen in crucifixion would, if it hit the right nerve, your thumbs would turn inwards.
Right.
I've cleared that up as well. I think that's one of the images. I think I've got a better one than that. That's it. So as you can see a thumb there.
Oh yeah.
Like the shadow of a thumb.
Yeah.
And all the finger bones go right back to the wrists.
So you have one on the top hand there. Is there also a thumb on the bottom hand, or?
Yeah, I've come off it again, but
yeah.
Do you want me to go back on it?
Yeah. Yeah, fantastic. Well, you know, it's amazing what we may not even perceive, you know, from looking at it. And, you know, one of the challenges with looking at the shroud image is if you get too close, it all just becomes a blur. And, you know, as you step back, then you can kind of see more detail on it. But if you go back too far, then the detail kind of goes away again. So there's kind of like an optimal way for at least us, the way our eyes and our brain process images. But it's fascinating to see how, you know, how AI and the deep learning and the image learning that's built into it can pick out stuff that you might not otherwise be able to really recognize very well.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, you you can find all different other things. Like when I looked at the blood across the forehead, I tested that out. I probably had another spiritual encounter where the Holy Spirit were nudging me again, but it told me to look for something in the blood on the forehead there, because people have found all sorts of things on the shroud, and obviously, I think it's pareidolia. Some of it can be pareidolia, like
and we're
animals in clouds and things like that.
Yep, and we're all guilty of that. Potentially, even the coins over the eyes could be that.
Yeah, potentially, but but when I looked at the letters across it, you can't find my name, for instance. If I wanted to take those letters and try and make my name out of those letters, it would be virtually impossible. But when I did it with the Shroud Man, I took the letters, and all I did was rotate them and just put them down below and across it, and it spelled out the Hebrew name for Yeshua. So, I mean, I'm not an Hebrew scholar, but that's what it said. So if I share that, so these letters here, they make up a word, and they're actually, so I took those letters, I just clipped them out. Right. That's the word they make. So that's the name for Jesus. Now that there is not the same as that exactly, but the reason why is because it's actually written in a specific type of Hebrew.
Okay.
Middle to late Paleo Hebrew letters, which are the same letters that make up the word Jesus. That got me thinking. Maybe there's more on the back of the image as well. So I had a look at that, and yeah, sure enough, you could see that in the Paleo Hebrew, you've got the shin, the aleph, and the tav, which is ancient Hebrew. The actual meaning for that, if you're going to go by, I think is it called pictographic Hebrew or something like that?
I think so.
It actually means God in the strength of the cross. Oh. So because that letter there means God. That is the actual word for God in the Hebrew.
Yeah.
And then you've got your cross, which is a tav, is a cross.
Yep.
And like a letter A for the aleph.
That is amazing.
So I thought, I thought that was a bit too coincidental to be. I've not proven it by writing a scientific paper yet about it or anything like that. I think that'd be hard to do. But
but if it's 7 letters, 4 on the front and 3 on the back, the probability, gets to be.
There's not that many prominent blood stains. There's only them 4 on the front, 5 on the front.
Right.
There's only 2 on back.
And certainly that big one there. So that big one on the front side, the epsilon, what is that? What's the letter for that? What's the Jewish letter there?
That's like a W, so it's like the name for God. The name for God.
Yeah. So then the Yeshua, and then on the back was Tav Aleph. I can't remember how you pronounce the other one.
So it's the W again, and Aleph Tav. So the beginning and the end. It's actually God, Alpha and Omega.
Oh, so interesting.
Jesus said that in Revelation. He said, he says, I am the beginning and the end.
Yeah, absolutely. And you find that all over the place on Christian imagery with him. You got the Alpha and the Omega on the side of his head and things like that.
Actually, when I discovered that, it sort of like broke down my confidence, because I thought, oh no, that could mean that someone's painted the blood on. They've done that. And they put them that on purpose.
Yeah.
And that's what my thinking were going. Even though I'd known all other science, I thought, I've got to think about this now. And I came up to the conclusion that, the blood stains are completely natural. because all the pathologist reports say that the bloods, there's slow and quick blood flows. There's live blood and there's blood, post-mortem blood, when the guy died as well. And they know which veins they come from. So they're entirely exudated blood. So it's natural flowing blood, which it's not been put on, by an artist or anything like that. It's exudated blood, which means the blood stains are completely natural as well.
Yeah.
So that baked my head how God would have done that to sign his name in blood.
Well, and even the blood itself, is below the image. So the blood was applied first, and then the image was applied. So, that might also, lend itself to being more realistic and more than authentic, as opposed to, being painted on like by a finger or something like that after death. Although I guess it's possible, but I like your point that, those, they have studied so much about those veins that are up here and the arteries that are up here, that those stains and are definitely pre-mortem blood, or vital blood, I guess is the term. Yeah.
I think it's six of the best pathologists in the world, I'd say, have confirmed that they're real blood stains, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, that is
what's interesting about the news recently is they did a blood analysis, and they found that in the blood analysis they found creatine. Now, creatine is, I'm not exactly a scientist, but from what I read about it, it's linked in with your kidney. So if you've got organ failure and things like that, you'll have laboured breathing and stuff like that. We're all consistent with Jesus being on the cross. So that were interesting, but also what were interesting, I think a lot of people have not picked up on it when I read the paper and I read the article, is that they found radiation, like particles, well, not radiation particles, but blood. They have, I think, is it electrolytes on the blood? So if someone experiences gamma rays, high intensity gamma rays or something like that, it'll show up in the blood, and a doctor could tell you that you've had radiation poisoning. Well, that's actually in the man's blood on the shroud as well. So they've found particles that only could have probably been done by gamma rays, high intensity gamma rays. So the guy looks as though he'd been in a nuclear reactor. Now, Christians will, and Catholics will probably say that's the resurrection.
Yeah.
Obviously, we can't prove that.
Well, but in the 13th century, though, in the 13th century, they had nuclear power. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So that's obviously what did it.
Yeah, they had nuclear reactors. That's how they got the light bulbs.
Exactly. So now, is there anything that this has been just absolutely fascinating. Is there anything that otherwise that you've done or you're working on that might want to mention?
I'm actually working on a full feature film. I'm coming up with the ideas for it because I'm already animating the Man of the Shroud using the best animation you can get hold of these days, using AI and stuff like that. And it's progressing. It's getting better and better. So there's simple things you can do, to make the Shroud Man move, and he can move realistically as well. So it's quite good how he moves realistically.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I can get him talking and speaking, the words of Jesus. So as it progresses, I'm hoping to do a full feature film, but at the moment, getting an animation of like 3.5 minutes as 4 minutes takes me at least 2 days, 2 or 3 days, and probably about 6 or 7 hours worth of doing that.
Yeah. Yeah, the AI power to get that stuff done is pretty amazing. I was at a presentation the other day, and this guy, he animated himself and then had voice. He took his own voice and then animated himself, and it was pretty impressive as to what you can get. Now there were a handful of things that just like some of the facial expressions and changes didn't really coincide with what you'd expect the verbiage would be, but nevertheless, it was pretty
Yeah,
impressive. So I'm sure you're going to do some really cool stuff.
yeah, it's quite expensive as well.
Oh,
If you want to use the best on the market, you're going to be paying $100 a month.
oh no.
So that's how much it is. So I rely on my viewers to get excited and share my material and comment and
Yeah,
everything. Just
yeah, yeah.
that actually, you get paid. You know how it works. You get paid for advertising and stuff like that. So that just covers. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. But sometimes it covers the costs involved doing all the
Right,
clearing up, the enhancing, the animation, and everything else.
right, right, right. Well, it's funny that does work, and then you talk about your viewers. You have an amazingly successful TikTok channel. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So when I put the first one on, what I cleared up and everything in enhance, I got millions of views. Well, up to nearly a million views, I think it was. So everyone's been super excited to see the form of Jesus. Give them a glimpse of what it looked like, but what it would look like in real life, talking and moving.
Mm,
So that's just blown up on TikTok, and I get anything between 10,000 views and 2.9 million views. But
wow.
sometimes it's quite regular. Sometimes it like 2 or 3 videos a month. I get over 100,000 views easy.
Wow.
So it blows up on TikTok pretty well. And it's doing quite well on Facebook as well. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what's happened to YouTube because YouTube it doesn't seem to work.
No,
I don't
that's
I don't know what's happening on YouTube. But
yeah. Well,
everyone shows how enthusiastic they are about it, and in the comments, and I get some really good comments. A lot of people actually have said that they've seen that face. They said, "Oh, this reminds me of the face I saw when I had a near death experience or a vision or something like that, or Jesus came to him." They
hmm,
said that I've seen that face. Um, but a lot of my images, they're because it's difficult to know on the Shroud of Turin. I mean, his hair is going to be covered in blood, sweat, and everything else, so it's going to be a complete mess. So you can't actually see what sort of hair he had. We know it came down to his shoulders somewhat,
hmm,
but you can't actually see what sort of hair, how curly it was, or how straight it was. So a lot of my images are really just, a lot of it's just educated guesswork.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Well, and I don't think plus the image is they call it vertically collimated, so it doesn't go. You don't really get the sides. So the side of the face or the hair, like you're saying, or even the side of the
yeah,
body doesn't really show. And so it's
yeah. If you take most of my images, what I've done recently, and you just put, if you cropped them down to that size, because the sides on the Shroud of Turin are missing. It's like
mm,
you're looking at. It's strange because it's like you're looking at an ultrasound scan.
mm,
A lot of people have said that, and it's just like he's like half in water and half out. It's bizarre how the image formation occurred, because his legs look kind of thin,
mm,
but they do the quite the bigger than that because the sides of the image. So when you got to the side of the image, it starts to disappear. So the image has been produced based on distance
mm.
uh, from the body to the cloth, and any side images are just not visible. So whatever came out of his body or whatever to make the image, if that's how it was made, then it
Right.
the side images didn't go up vertical. It must have gone to the side or something like that. I just don't know how
Yeah.
that's happened.
Well, it didn't go in all directions. It seems like, it did go, like you're saying,
Yeah,
vertically, and
basically,
and
yeah.
then you do have some anomalies like the teeth maybe, and then you have the lower back and the spinal bones down there, and then even on
Mm,
the legs, it seems like some of the bones seem to be, showing up as well as something, and
yeah.
whether that's kind of half X-ray and then half of whatever this image process is. It's like a little bit of both of them.
Yeah, I think we can say whatever caused the image were a number of different mediums. So you
Mm,
might have got gamma rays on one side, extreme ultraviolet light, a really powerful ultraviolet light on another side. So I think there were different image formations that made the entire image. Because it seems like there's more images in one. So you've got the bones behind the lip, but you can see the lip. You can
mm,
see the lip on the shroud, but you
right.
can see that he's got bones. It's really strange.
Yeah, yeah, good
How
point. Good point. Yeah, you're getting multiple layers in there of the bones and the bone structure,
yeah,
and then you're getting the skin, and then even a little bit of the, I guess the mustache had to have had a lot of blood in it as well, and and sweat and whatever, because that seems to also show up in some
yeah.
fashion.
They show up as really bright white on the
Mm,
shroud, don't they? When you look at it.
yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. So, well, anyway, Paul, uh, fascinating, and good luck as well, and let us know hopefully how we can support some of the work that you're trying to do, because I think like you're saying, a movie would be really really cool, and and
what I'd really like to do like interviews with shroud experts and scientists and things like that, because that would be brilliant. To mix that in with the animation as well.
hmm,
Uh, that'd be brilliant to get other people on board and things like that,
yeah, yeah,
to make
absolutely,
one big feature film
yeah, yeah,
documentary or something.
yeah. You may need to talk to David Rolfe. He's done a couple of long films and in out of the UK, uh,
Yeah,
and then I think Michael Kowalski over at the
um,
British
yeah. I'm
Shroud.
meeting him on Monday actually,
Oh, no
uh,
kidding.
in
Yeah, the
Lynn. Yeah, we're
BSTS.
just
Yeah,
meeting up for a coffee because I've never actually seen him in person, so I've spoke to him
yeah,
over the phone,
yeah,
but so I'm
yeah.
meeting him on
Well,
Monday.
I've seen him just like this over over Zoom, so it's almost in person, not quite. So. Anyway, what is your TikTok handle? Where are you on TikTok, and where can people find you?
So if you put at Paul Hanson, so you change the letter N at the end to an N, Paul Hanson, that should bring me up on TikTok, because I've changed the N at the end because there were that many Paul Hansons on TikTok. I decided to change one letter, so I changed the letter at the end from a N to a M. So
Well,
if you just put
you may need to get your name then officially changed to become Mr. Paul Handsome.
yeah, or you can go on wider perspective, all one word, wider
Uh-huh.
perspective productions on YouTube. Uh,
Okay.
I'm on YouTube as well, or on Facebook. If you put Paul Hanson Sheffield, you should
Okay.
find
So, wider perspectives. What was it again? Wider perspectives.
wider perspective, all one word.
Okay.
Wider perspective. Well, it's two words, but I put it as all one
Yeah.
word.
Yeah. And that was
Wider
on YouTube.
perspective productions. Yeah, that's
Productions.
on
Yeah.
YouTube. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Paul Hansom, Hansom. And fantastic. Well, Paul, thank you so much for being on today. I'm fascinated to see what you do in the next 6 months or 12 months, and would love to have you back on again at that point. And for my viewers, then thank you so much for being here today. And stay tuned for other videos in this series. And if you really like this one, please rate it with 5 stars. Paul, thank you so much.